So here we go for another episode of the Road to Shaka series. Today's conditions were pretty good. I was on the 4.4 in the flat water, comfortably powered up, and as always using the 105 freestyle board. So let's get straight into it with attempt number 1. So I've figured out at this point that speed is essential. I always make sure before I do anything that I have max speed. So here we go. I unhook, get low and point the elbows down. As I get ready to take off, I'm really focusing on getting my weight forward as I bring the sail back and carve the board into the wind. At this point, I try to sheet in with the sail hand and push with the mast hand. Something that I've also started to focus on is looking upwind and into the rotation as I take off. I found that the more I turn my head, I found it easier to rotate in the air. So now I've managed to get my weight over the sail as I've taken off, and the mast is now basically parallel to the water. I think that the issue now is that I don't have enough power in the back of the sail and I'm not high enough to get the proper rotation. At this point, my backhand starts to push out as I come down for the landing, but you can see that the board has at least turned about 90 degrees. So moving on to attempt number 2. Sometimes you have those sessions where you're really going for it, and this was definitely one of those sessions. I was feeling a lot more confident and I was really trying to throw my body over the sail. So again, good speed and body weight low. I try to make the sail movement a little bit more aggressive and snappy. The sail goes back and the body weight forward. Then a sharp sheet in with the backhand as I push with the front hand and look hard into the rotation. I'm really starting to get a better takeoff now and actually get in the air, and the sail's somewhat in the right position. The only problem with this one, it would seem, is that I'm a little bit too far back as I land. And you can see that the board just skids out underneath and into the wind as I fall backwards. Attempt number 3. When you're really pushing it, there's usually 2 things that can happen. You either somehow miraculously land the move you're going for, or you end up with a pretty dodgy crash. For me, unfortunately, it was the latter. To be honest, I was completely fine. I think it looked a bit worse than it was, but that's just part of the game. And to be honest, I've usually had the biggest breakthroughs after moments like this, because as I said, it usually means I'm really pushing for it. So let's break down what actually went wrong. So the setup is the same as usual with good speed and getting low. Then sheeting out and getting my body weight out. The takeoff is more or less the same as well. Body weight forward and sail back as I sheet in with the backhand and push with the front hand. Here's where I think I went wrong. If you look at the board, it's quite flat, and even with the downwind rail pointing down. This is because I pushed my toes down instead of hooking them up, and this means that when I land, I'm just going to catch the rail, and that's exactly what happened. So the takeaway from that for me is to actually always keep the toes up to keep the downwind rail up. So after that, I just took a few moments before getting back out there and having another go. So on to the final attempt. So this one actually felt really good, and I'm really starting to get a lot more consistent with the takeoff. In this session I felt a lot of progression, mainly from focusing on looking into the rotation and specifically past the other side of the board, and also really committing to throwing my body over the sail. This freeze frame to me is really starting to look more and more like an actual Shaka. I'm not too sure how to get more of the rotation and avoid just spinning back like I do here. But if anyone has any advice, that would be greatly appreciated, and hopefully I'll figure this out in future sessions. So the way I'm currently thinking about the takeoff is in terms of momentum and rotation. Here's a diagram from a bird's eye view. The line represents an example of me carving into the wind and trying to take off for the Shaka. During the carve, there are multiple points where I could potentially go for the takeoff. The goal for me right now is to make sure I have both momentum, which helps me to get over the sail, as well as rotation, which helps me turn whilst I'm in the air. So if I were to take off at this point, pretty much where I was taking off in episode 1, I would have speed and carry momentum to get over the sail, but without carving would have no rotation. Now, if I were to carve aggressively into the wind and wait until I was almost into the wind to then take off, I've started the rotation, but as I'm carving into the wind, I lose all speed and it makes it hard to launch myself over the sail as I don't have any momentum. This for me seems to be about the perfect spot to take off from, where you do a short and sharp carve, and pretty much as soon as I've carved slightly into the wind, That's when I'm really trying to sheet in with the backhand, push with the front hand, and get my body right over the sail. So yeah, just a little insight into how I'm thinking about the move at this point. Let me know how your Shaka efforts are going in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.